How much solar is needed to cover 100% of Australia's energy consumption? From the Austrade website. Targets for decarbonising our economy are enshrined in law. These laws require Australia to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 43%, compared to 2005 levels, by 2030 and reach net zero emissions by 2050. The Australian government is targeting 82% renewable energy in our electricity grids by 2030. The legislation referred to as the Climate Change Act, 2022, specifically at Section 10, Paragraph 1. This Act presents the current Australian federal government legislated commitment. Some basic energy numbers. 1 petajoule equals 278 gigawatt-hours, or 277,778 megawatt-hours, or 278 million kilowatt-hours. The most recent energy data is the 2024 Information Energy Data Release that covers the 2022-23 year energy consumption. In the 2022-23 year, the energy consumption, in petajoules by fuel type, reveals that renewables accounted for 9.4% of the energy mix, with 553.6 petajoules out of a total of 5,882.2 petajoules of energy consumed by Australia. Within renewables, the split between renewable types reveals that solar PV, the focus of this video, was 27.3% of the total renewable energy consumed, with 151.1 petajoules. Solar PV then accounts for just 2.57% of the total energy mix. The key takeaway here is that given, in the 2022-23 year, renewables accounted for 9.4% of the energy mix, this leaves a further 72.6% to reach the target legislated in the Climate Change Act of 2022, or 7.72 times the current level of renewables energy generation over the next, say, 6 years. That's a lot of renewables. Now the purpose of this video is to undertake a back-of-the-envelope calculation to understand the estimated amount of solar required to supply 100% of Australia's energy requirements, and we'll use the 2022-23 year data, given this appears to be the most recent data. A standard solar panel has a width of 0.99 meters, and a length of 1.676 meters, making its total area equal to 1.659 meters square, that is, 0.99 multiplied 1.676. Typical solar systems installed on rooftops in Australia are the 6.6 kilowatt, 10.56 kilowatt and 13.2 kilowatt systems. The number of solar panels required to be installed for each system are 18, 27 and 36 respectively. The amount of energy generated per day is measured in kilowatt-hours. The amount of energy generated will vary depending on how much sunlight your system receives each day. A 13.2 kilowatt system in Tasmania will generate approximately 45.5 kilowatt-hours, whereas the same system in Western Australia will generate 57.2 kilowatt-hours, simply because Western Australia receives a greater amount of sunlight. For our calculations, we will utilise the best-case numbers for Australia, which will be Western Australia's electricity generation via the 13.2 kilowatt system. Using the 2022-23 energy consumption numbers, the entirety of Australia consumed 5,882.2 petajoules, or 1,635,251,600,000 kilowatt-hours per year, or 4,480,000,000 kilowatt-hours per day. Using the solar panels data above, the number of panels required for a 13.2 kilowatt system is 2,829,600,000, which covers a surface area of 4,695,000,000 meters square. To calculate the number of panels for the 13.2 kilowatt system, simply divide the kilowatt-hours per day by the electricity generated by the system and multiply by the number of panels required for the same solar system. The surface area for each solar generation system is simply the number of panels multiplied by the area of each solar panel. For the Australian Bureau of Statistics 2021 census, the latest census data, there were 10,850,000 houses in Australia. The number of houses required to house the 13.2 kilowatt solar generation system is 78,600,000, creating a shortfall of approximately 67,750,000 houses. Simply stated, the shortfall in the number of roofs available in Australia is astronomical. This shortfall of 68 million houses meaning the housing stock would need to increase six-fold in order to accommodate. Of course, solar panels can be maintained on the ground as well as on roofs. thankfully. So, what does this look like? The distance between Sydney and Perth, as the truck drives, is approximately 4,017 kilometers. To obtain square kilometers, simply divide the meters squared by 1,000. So, a 13.2 kilowatt system would cover approximately 4,695 square kilometers. This means the solar panels required to cover 100% of Australia's current energy requirements would be an unbroken road from Sydney to Perth 1.17 kilometers wide. That is, the 4,695 divided by 4,017, this amount of land cover would be larger than any of the smallest 30 countries on Earth, ranking the amount of ground covered by solar panels between Cape Verde, the 167th largest country, and Trinidad and Tobago, the 166th largest country. And that's just the energy for Australia. Allowing for $300 per panel installed, based on the approximate installation cost for residential solar, the total cost to Australia just to install enough 13.2 kilowatt systems to cover the country's current energy consumption is $848,869,000,000. This represents approximately 42% of Australia's GDP. As we are only looking at how much solar is required to cover Australia's total energy consumption, we haven't taken into account ongoing costs, such as repairs and maintenance, nor additional infrastructure such as installing solar batteries and maintaining the electricity grids. Whilst there are a lot of assumptions being made, the one takeaway is the amount of renewable energy required to supplant Australia's reliance on fossil fuels. There is a question over the country being able to meet the legislated 2030 greenhouse gas emissions reduction target of 43%, given the energy mix to cover the level of energy consumed in the 2022-23 year. Will there be enough renewable electricity generated to cover the transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy? And how will this renewable energy, especially solar, be stored? Are the electricity grids robust enough to facilitate the transition? What of the impact on energy generation when factoring in tangibles such as electric vehicles, increased economic activity, and an increasing population? Will there be enough new renewable energy generated to fund these energy pressures? And ultimately, will the country be able to afford the cost, in terms of dollars and social and political cohesion, of this transition?